Benita, I want you to say, wanted to rear me as a black person and not a biracial person.
The world sees my family as black. The world sees all interracial people as black. In order for you with credibility and expertise, you need to understand that the world sees you as black, so you must get used to that definition because it's going to be carried with you wherever you go. When people see other people, the first thing they see is color.
Welcome to One Drop Elopes with me and Moses. I'm your host, Benita Offset. One Drop Elopes is my constructive response to demystify and replace white supremacy with a just system. One Drop Elopes is a weekly broadcast on radio that streams live every Sunday at 12 noon Central. For unaware listeners, One Drop Elopes is not just an entertaining radio show. It's a model that on every show educates and equips our people to utilize their gifts in a constructive manner. Therefore, One Drop Elopes will showcase and be a collective archive of Black folk who are actively doing their part to pursue justice via a wide array of perspectives, discussions, and presentations. The chief sponsor for One Drop Elopes is Benita Things. Email Benita at benita@gmail.com to place an order or for more information. So today, my guest is one of the members of Black Man Vent. This is Mr. Legend. How you doing today, Mr. Legend?
Morning. Thank you. I'm doing very fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about you joining us today. I have been watching and your shows, and I actually look forward to seeing them. I'm a fan, and I wait around till Thursdays, and I'm like, oh, okay, come on, it's 9:00 on Thursday. Where's the show at? Sometimes it'll it might be like 9:05, and I'll just like twiddling my thumbs waiting. But I really appreciate what you all are doing on the show.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Okay, but why don't you introduce yourself to One Drop Elopes family? Like, who are you and what are you about? And, why would I have you as one of the people who are actively doing their part to justice on my show?
Okay, thank you. I am Mr. Legend from blackmanvent.com, which is a podcast or, like a social media all through many facets on the internet about Black relationships from maybe a male's perspective. Just to give a little bit of history of what we do. Me and my friends, Big Country and Quest 07, and a couple other people who've come with us along the way. Back in 2006, we used to sit around the breakfast table and talk about our relationships or whatever, and why we weren't being successful. Because we all wanted to be, family men and, basically replicate what our families did for us, So we started the podcast. This is before podcast. The term was even keyed or whatever. And we would sit back, and our goal was because we noticed that good women and good men were just basically missing each other. You kept hearing about females being played, and then there was us not being successful. And then you look at the Black community as a whole, family just wasn't being cultivated. So we set forth to figure out why. So we sat back and we were like, this is what Black good guys do. This is what we speak about very candidly when we're by ourselves. So you as a woman shouldn't have to guess anymore. You don't have to be tricked by these bad guys, because that's what they say and this is what we say, and it comes from a positive standpoint. Okay, but during that journey, a lot of people, we were very naive when we started out. First of all, we thought it was just Black people. Second of all, we thought it was just the Chicago area. Third of all, there was just a lot of misconceptions we were operating off of, and people let us know, that first we found out that maybe not good men are what some women's type are, and they want a bad guy just to be good. You know what I'm saying? But, we learned a lot, and a lot of people started hating us, try to shut us down. A lot of people misunderstand our message. It is an overall positive message, but you cannot get through certain problems without addressing them. There are things that we are doing bad to each other, that prevent us from cultivating family. And when you cultivate good family, you cultivate better generations than what we're dealing with today. So now we just come to IntellectualRadio.com, because now that it's been like 12 years later, and there's YouTube now, there's, internet radio. So it's very, very easy to get our message across.
That's awesome. I completely understand where you're coming from. There's and I also understand why you would have haters. I definitely get that. But I think that what people have to do is actually listen. Like think about it. Put everything together. For instance, the title of the show itself should at least explain it. Black Men Vent, right? So it's not, you shouldn't expect it to always go in your favor. And there's definitely things that you all say that I'm 100% in agreement with, and then there's things that you say that I'm not. And then we don't have to agree on everything. One of the things that I appreciate wholeheartedly about your message, that I think is something that is some people who are actively doing their part to help us to hopefully I don't see racism going anywhere anytime soon. However, I feel like we need to develop constructive responses to it. Exactly. And so I feel like your consistent message of we trying to have families, we trying to have strong families build strong communities, and strong communities can and help make a better
nation.
Right. Exactly. So I feel like that is a good example of somebody who's actively doing their part. So that's why I'm excited for you to be here. I know one of the things that we had talked about in the past was child support. Do you want to comment on that? Whether it's
it came from, I'm sorry. It came from a good place, but what it has now is basically, I don't know, perverted in a lot of ways. Not only from the people who receive it, the people who pay it, to the people facilitating that system. Yes, children need support, okay, from both parents and many facets. But what we've understood, or what we found out, is that the government, mainly the family courts, they really benefit off of tearing families apart rather than giving them some type of incentive to stay together. For example, the federal government gives state government matching funds for each child support case that is done, or whatever, tried, or what, I don't know what they call it. But so if you want more money, you got to close more cases. So, and it's not on an individual basis where they really look and see who's the better parent. There's no constitutional law for family court. It's basically a bunch of people saying what they feel and think. I've seen there's a lot that I get information from. One of my closest friends is a deputy or a sheriff in child support court, and what he tells me what he sees every day. 97% of the time, the children are awarded to the female, okay, because they believe that the child needs his mother. Just, that's what it is right off the bat. That's sexist, and it's not always true. Okay. Coming from family roles and everything, that may have been automatic at one point in time, because men aren't really seen as domestic, cooking, cleaning type of people, as well as women are. But now, if you look now, it's kind of like the same, So there's many things that and me and you talked, you and I talked earlier this week or sometime about the changes that they just done in Illinois, and in particular. And I'm looking at that, and they're looking at, do you how it used to be, they just took money from who didn't have sole custody. So, and it was based off of their salary. Now they're looking at both salaries and looking at how much time that the child spends with each person.
Right. The way I understand it is, if you split the time, then you don't have to pay. Right. Did you read it that way, or am I looking at it?
It varies, and you know the wording in it is very lawyerish. So I had to
We gotta
read
go
it
get our law dictionary and break it down. And
right. So you know, but what it boils down to is somebody saying, I think this should happen," and whether that's true or not, is you know different for each family. You know, and so but then you have people who abuse it, you know, who get money and don't use it for the children. You get paternity frauds and all types of garbage jumbled up in this institution that nobody really cares about, and they really profit off the um, destruction of families.
see, my concern with the child support system is that I think it destroys families, and the
Mhm.
reason why I think it does is because it's child support court is almost 100% though the defense or
Mhm.
that person who's defending themselves.
Mhm.
There's usually a black man,
Mhm.
and so that's clearly unjust to me. Is like, why is everybody in here a black man? Why is that? Like, why is this not affecting white men the same way it's affecting our brothers? So that's a huge red flag for me right there.
Mhm.
Then another red flag is if you get incarcerated, then the bill keeps coming.
Mhm.
But like you could have a visa or a student loan or anything, and you can defer that payment while you're incarcerated, but you can't defer the child support payment. The other thing is that they've said for years, in order for a mother who's a single mother, head of household or whatever, in order for her to get any kind of aid, medical aid or food stamps or um, any kind of benefit, right?
Mhm.
She has to say no, the father can't be here.
Mhm.
But then when she says no, the father's not here so that she can get the food stamps, now all of a sudden she's got to sign him up, years later.
Mhm.
Then they switched it to, in order for you to get any kind of aid, in addition to saying the father's not here, you got to tell us where the father is so we can find him. So it's like a setup.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
see it.
they wholeheartedly benefit. It's been, and we just talked about this on our last show. We touched on it. We try to do a good show every week, but sometimes you know we miss it. For years, for 12 years, I always leave it like, oh, I should have said this or I should have did that. But we just talked about that. And I just went to a meeting this week about how these systems are very predatory. And if you look at, let's just talk about simple things like parking tickets. Um, if you get a parking ticket in Chicago, it can compound until they suspend your license. And if they suspend your license, and you can go to jail if they pull you over, you can go to jail. These things can affect your ability to pay anything because if you don't work, you can't pay. So, same thing with child support. There's the system. If you can never get in the system for any reason, I don't parking tickets. Don't get in. Pay it. Get out of there. Okay, because it's like a trap. It's like a vacuum. And being as though and we talked about feminism a little bit last show, and how when uh, they were like, we don't need no man or whatever like that. They was like, okay, you can have these benefits if you just kick the man out. The man can't be in there. Okay. And even today,
And so they do kick the man out.
right.
But knowing deep down inside, this is my child's father. I still love him. I still care about him. So I still know where he at. He's still on deck. But I'm gonna tell you that he's not there so that I can still benefit because we can't afford this life, you know.
If you look at feminism and how they kind of preach that like men are the problem for everything almost, not having him in the house because the natural role for a man is leader. Okay. And feminism is like, we don't need men. So if he's not in the house, that's a plus for me. I get to call my own shots and make my own choices and do whatever I want. Okay. So it's almost like an incentive. Like, okay, for a long time before welfare or anything, women didn't have the opportunity for education and jobs to pull forward. So they had to get married to someone who was doing it, and they would cultivate that family. Okay. Now you don't need that. So men are kind of like optional. So when they say, okay, you got to kick that man out, that's cool. I don't want anybody in here telling me what to do anyway. So when you're in that situation in a community that doesn't really frown upon out of wedlock births, because I'm told now that like 80% of children, of black children, are coming from single parent homes. And then I'm also told that across the board with any race, 80% of the prison population come from single parent homes. This is an epidemic of huge proportions. And you're right, when you come into court and you see the majority of black men who were thrown in the system because their uh, baby mama or their baby's mother put them there. And just 2 seconds ago, we were talking about don't get in the system, don't get in the system.
And the thing is that she didn't have a choice for years. Yeah, and I remember when it started because I was my children's father was locked up at the time, and when he was away, he was like, Benita, these are my children. This is my child. I'll never deny her. Put my name down on whatever you want. He had his name on the birth certificate, all of that. The problem though was I didn't want to be that person who was gonna help. I didn't want to be I didn't want to support that system. I didn't want to be a co-conspirator against the father of my child, now children at the time, child at the time, but we have 2 children together. But anyway, so he but when I was there, I was like, I don't know. But then they're like, but his name's on the birth certificate. So even though I didn't sign him up for child support, then they just did the research and then they sent him the bill while he was locked up. So, as a woman, there's certain things that you want to do to support your child by making sure that your children know who their father is, having his name on the birth certificate, making sure that they have a good relationship, seeing each other, all that, keeping him within the household. But then you also, you gotta also go to, because you don't want to be a co-conspirator against the father of your children. So then now like we have this much money and we have this much need. And so I guess I probably should have just been out there, crocheting hats or whatever and making money. But there's also this other thing. It's like there's this carrot, that's like, hey, why don't you just come over here and get these food stamps, right? So
I work
young and
I'm sorry. I work in the welfare to work community. I work for a community-based organization, and I'll tell you that yes, the women, they do have a choice, and I'll tell you those women who choose not to do it. Like I'll give you an example: immigrants who come to America also use aid and all of that, but you notice that they're not in the system. They take whatever they can without disbanding their family. The reason why they can do that because their communities support them. If I am anything, if I'm let's just say Arab American, and I come here and I'm sleeping, or I brought my family, my wife and my daughter, and we get food stamps, but that's about it because they want us to disband the family after that. And that's just the unthinkable to us because to every other culture, family is everything. That's the reason why we're on planet Earth. So their community, I'll sleep on, my cousin's couch. I can go work at my brother's store. My wife can sit at home and crochet hats, and we'll make it like that until we, become better people, And I get so jealous of other cultures because we don't help each other out like that, to the point where we have to go to an outside system to survive, And that's one of the things that we believe in Black Men Vent, is because the lack of family has cascaded and grown out of control and is the root of the majority of our problems. Okay. The father not being in the home, it's a big problem. The self-proclaimed independent woman, that's a problem. Men who are not raised by men or don't have any fatherly influence don't really know how to make it through the world as a Black man today. They don't have that instruction. Like, this is what you can't get crazy when things don't go your way. Like your mother, you'll end up in jail or dead. There's no man telling them that. Like, when something bad happens to you, violence is not supposed to be the first option for our people. That's a big problem. When you start getting into mass incarceration and everything, it all stems from not being told what is right from the beginning, So, and you think the courts care about that? No, the system does not care about any of that. They're turning this child support court nowadays is a factory of money. And what's crazy is, and what you were saying is that it's like a builder that has the ability to jail you and even kill you in some cases if you don't pay them. You know, and like I said at the beginning, is the child needs support. Okay, but why are all of these entities in it? Why do we give people police over our family? And it's not helping anything.
See, what keeps coming to mind when you told the story about the Arab Americans or the other Arabs or other nationalities, lack of medical, I think, because I remember being in that situation. It's like, if you accept the medical care, I think, like you said, somewhere along the line, like if you stop at the food stamps, I say he could still be a part, but with the medical. So I think maybe that's the reason why our families. I hear you when you say we don't have that community support, but I'm just trying to figure out, well, why do we need it? Like, why is it such a need for us? Is it because of the medical? Like you have to, like you don't have any insurance. So would that be a way of putting this back together, like having some kind of insurance for our people?
Right.
Or because, like, for instance, even if we all agree, well, we're going to sleep on each other's couches, that still doesn't cover the medical coverage. Do you understand where I'm going with it?
So when we talk about someone being in the home or them kicking out the man of the home, you can still receive some level of aid. A married couple, a family can receive some level, just not as much as if you were by yourself. And I think that, and we give people a lot of credit. A lot of people there's some people out there that are greedy. You give them a free pie, they're going to take it, no matter what they have to give up for it. There's a lot of people that's part of their hustle. Aid is part of their hustle, So, and it has been for generations. Like, I know a lot of our clients never, ever doesn't even know what work is about. Other than what they've seen on TV. Their grandmother never had a job. Their mother never had a job. They don't know what work culture is. We get a lot of people in that are like, we ask them a simple question, like, what time do you got to be at work at 8:00? What time do you get up? People are like 7:00. Well, how long does it take to get your child ready? Well, how long does it take you to get ready? How far is the babysitter from your house? Okay. So when you have people that think like this, asking them, they just, okay, you're going to get all this free stuff. All you got to do is sign here. Tell us who your father is and stuff like that. So I'm not thinking that it's all malicious in some cases, but the way the system is set up, they're trying to get money. That's why they want to get money. There was a news story about this guy who wasn't even a child's father, but in order for her, she was in a bad place and she didn't know who the child's father was. So she just put one dude down that she slept with. She knew good and well that it wasn't the child's father, and her doing that is bogus, but seeing her in that situation, you gotta look at the system. Why are you forcing this? They're like, well, they don't, and plus they don't understand. We're talking about people in their ivory tower who don't understand this way of life. Like, they come from families that come from families that come from families. Everybody's educated. They don't understand poverty or how it works or how things interchange and people get in these situations. They're like animals. Like, they're out there having sex with each other unprotected and they can't have babies but they have them anyway. Like, what are they doing? Like, of course we want the father. He should be responsible. He should want to be responsible. In some cases, the father doesn't even know he is a father. So
it's just a double-edged sword because the system is saying we don't want the father to be involved. We want the father's money.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why I'm glad. But this law or whatever that just recently passed in the last couple of years or whatever that says, it's about time. It's not, I really hope that, all of our people listening can get a chance to look into that because, like you said, I want us all to stay out of the system. That's another point that you made that I feel is very, very important. Like, I feel like the golden egg or the most awesome thing that you can do for your child is to keep them out of the system.
Exactly.
So, like, for instance, your son will never be on child support, never be locked up, never have a student loan. Those are all like systems that just keep you very, very, you trapped.
Right.
You owe the government. It makes it very, very difficult to be free.
Right. And you know, I heard you talking about white supremacy or in an introduction. My personal goal or BMV, to defeat, like, I don't even respect it as white supremacy. I think that because they have somebody in every facet of society and they look out for each other, that's white supremacy. So my way to combat that is that if we are having trouble in these systems, we need our people in these systems. So it's not a white person hitting the gap down. But in order to get people into the court system, into the police system, into all of these oppressive systems that we just have no luck, that we just expect them to give us mercy over, we need to get people in those institutions that look at, that's how everything else is done. People, if we go to, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, and we could say that the Arabs have Arab supremacy because they're the majority there. Whatever they say and work, that's what happens. I heard that they treat Americans out there like third class citizens because a lot of them are rich or whatever. That's tangent, but and they are oppressed in some way. People who are not Saudi Arabians there, and this happens in every country. In China, there's not many other people in China that's not Chinese. And of course, they don't really respect them a lot. Some of them never saw a black person in their life. So in order to get in and dilute these systems, we have to push education. Things that are not cool to us as black people nowadays have to start being cool. We have to start rewarding people for being smart. We can't, kids today will be ostracized if they show any type of intelligence. If they don't, if young men do not exude this tough guy, thug, pop culture thing, then he is going to have trouble getting women. He's going to have trouble fitting in and being social, period. Okay. Other cultures, they like smart guys. I live in Hyde Park, so there's a lot of students there, and I see there's a lot of Asian people in my building, so I see a lot of them with nerdy guys, and like are very awkward with women, but they're in school to be a doctor or a lawyer, and the girls are just like hitting on them. And I was like, I don't ever see that in the black community. Like, if you're not cool, you're gonna have trouble with the ladies, So if we knock that down, if we start getting people choosing based off of look at a man's principles and character to see if he can lead a family to prosperity, okay, instead of his swag or how he dresses or what kind of car he drives or something like that. If this guy is into whatever, I'm drawing a blank, but whatever profession he's in, he's going to pass that on to his children, and their family is going to blossom like that. Then we're going to start seeing a lot more black people in positions of power along the way, where it makes it real awkward for them to oppress us through these institutions. Okay. But then again, you got some people, I've seen some judges who are just as bad, and they think that they're being just. But you see in these circles of good old boys or whatever, they wash each other's hands. Not saying that the judge should let off, black criminals because they're black, but we should see
your empathy.
Yeah, your empathy
for your fellow con.
I've seen it a couple times. I forgot what the black lady's judge name, female. She has a show, and she broke down one time. We're not crying.
That's a divorce court lady. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I just saw a clip. Somebody posted a clip, and she's like, "It's real hard for me to sit here and sending you brothers to prison all the time." And then you look at the dude, and I look at the dude. I'm like, this dude is obviously not a father fit to be a father. Whether his past is just shady or he never had a father to show him how to be a father. And I know a lot of dudes who don't have a father try to be 10 times that, but never had any direction on how to be a father other than James from
Good times.
Yeah, Good Times or Bill Cosby or whatever, So it stems, everything stems from family, and our families in the Black community are very fragmented, and everybody's just trying to survive. Everybody's just trying to do what's trendy. But nobody's doing anything that really, scores a point for the culture and family wise.
Let's take a quick musical break so I can process some of the things that you said.
Okay.
And the song we're gonna listen to is Love Dog's Time. And we're just gonna go to our break right now. Thank you, Earl.
Okay.
You are now listening to One Drop Elopes on Intellectual Radio with Moses and Benita Offset.
This is Moses. Thanks for listening to One Drop Elopes on IntellectualRadio.com, hosted by me and my mom. One Drop Elopes is a constructive response to white supremacy, which is racism. We want to see everyone free. One Drop Elopes chief sponsor is Bonita's Homemade Things, where you can get scrumptious cakes, delicious cookies, and colorful hats and scarves. Join us every Sunday on One Drop Elopes on IntellectualRadio.com, 12 noon Sunday Central. Call in at 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953 to share your thoughts and opinions about our show.
Baby, can we be more than just friends, girl? I really wanna know if you wanna be mine. I can't believe all the things we have been through, baby. I want you to be my lady. I see it in your eyes, how you look at me. I get you, I take off my shades to see you better. And do you like it, what you see? Then come with me, I'll make you better. Girl, it takes time to get to know somebody's body like I know your body, baby. All the times that I've been waiting for your love, anticipating, baby. You know, like I know, that no one puts on a show quite the way I do. They don't even have a clue. They see me when we be free to be you, free to be me. Can we just be happy? You're the only one I need, so I won't hesitate to compensate for all of the times that disappointed you. And don't be scared, I can't prepare to make all your fantasies come true. Girl, it takes time to get to know somebody's body like I know your body, baby. And all the times that I've been waiting for your love, anticipating, baby.
This is safe love, no plastic gloves, have-hearted hugs, no prophylactics love, time tested, invested, so practical, written in the stars, baby, true galactic love. Who memorize your uh-ohs and oh-no's? Go fast, go slows, go deep, go low, for show, who know, yo, emotional flow, you know this is so special. He was the mirror whispering, I love the way he make me glow. I know your soul, the rain in the snow, you know the pain and the strength of my glow, the depth of your when I go in with the length and width of my O.
Girl, it takes time to get to know somebody's body like I know your body, baby. And all the times that I've been waiting for your love, anticipating, baby.
Greetings you back on One Drop Elopes with Benita, Onset, and Moses, and we just finished listening to Love Dog. His song is Time. You know, y'all, I love that song. I played it several times. The reason why I played it, time for us to get things together, and it's time for us to work stuff out. And I needed some time to understand all the things that Mr. Legend was sharing with us. The way I see it is that it's I have like a 4-pillar system in us getting free. Mr. Legend has got like all the spokes on a bicycle. It's just like so many different things out there, and I needed some time to process that. So this is what I've come up with in my head. My 4-pillar system is that we are all one family, all Black folk across the diaspora. And that when we are in our small little groups having conversations, just like Mr. Legend and I together, we are always going to be working towards a solution. We're going to have these conversations within our small family dynamic. So, you know, he's my brother, I'm his sister. And so when we get together, we have these discussions. And when I go back to my house, I'll have more discussions. When I'm on the phone with my friends, I have more discussions. I call those little small nucleuses as good, strong family dynamics. And then to produce more than we consume and consume with Black folk, and to study an anti-racist code, we have got to figure out a way that we all are going to, they have a code, we need a code. What is going to be our code, and working with each other? Listening to Mr. Legend speak with all the spokes on the wheel, what he has presented to me is just all these different problems. So it's we have and these are all problems that he's observed within our community that hurts us, and help and all of these broken pieces that we have. And so my way of looking at it was, what are we going to do to like I feel like this is our healing. These are 4 things we have to do to heal. Mm-hmm. And what he presented to me was, these are all the different broken pieces that we have. And so what I see him saying as the healing for him is education. The other thing that I see for him is maybe emulating some of these other communities that are strong. Get rid of feminism. Having good Black male-female relationships. And the only reason why you educate is so that you turn around and pull back and help your people and be empathetic to them. And I don't think that you look at racism the same way I do, or maybe I think we differ maybe there. But what I wanted to ask you to expound more on is, I want to share with you a couple things. Like you was talking about a judge, you know, they got all this education and they rose to a point where now they're a judge, but then they're in that situation and they still sometimes aren't being empathetic to their people. Right. Well, I want to tell a quick story. There's this woman, a Black female judge here in the county, and I was sitting in an organization and we're all sitting there. It's like a plated lunch type thing. And she's up there speaking to us. And what she says is, you know, hey, I happen to be a judge of child support, not child support court, but child, like DCFS court, right? Mm-hmm. And she said that one day she was in court and it just hit her like a ton of bricks. Why is everybody in my audience Black? Like, why are all these people that have to come before my court Black? I don't have any white people coming before me. I don't have none of these other people are going through DCFS court. And so DCFS, for unaware listeners, stands for Department of Children and Family Services here in the state of Illinois. And that's usually in other places. They call that CPS, Child Protective Services. So anyway, she decided to do her homework and do the research and go back. Now, had she been a white judge, she may not have felt that way, right? So this goes to your point. So it was really good that she was in that position. Once she did the homework, she went all the way back to the Cook County Hospital, and she found out that if a Black mother comes in under the influence while pregnant, then they instantly call DCFS on that parent. Okay. If a white mother comes in under the influence, they call a family member. Mm.
That's the rule?
That's their rule of thumb.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's what I talk about when I say racism. Mm-hmm. So they made a decision based on a person's color. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the opening to my beginning. You know, even though I have a white father and a Black mother, they've been married almost 50 years. They'll be married 50 years this year. So even though I come from that, like my parents decided, you gonna be Black. You know, because they know that I can't run from that. Mm-hmm. No matter what we do, no matter how light I am, how fair my eyes are, any of that stuff, I'm still going to always be a certain way. So if I come in pregnant and I just happen to be drinking that night, maybe I've never drunk ever before while during my pregnancy, but that one particular night I'm under the influence, I could lose my baby just that fast because I'm a person of color. Like I don't have any family. So even the system itself is looking at us as a people who don't have families. Now, there's been another report that I found where Black men actually are more likely to spend time with their children. Like it was this awesome report. I wish I had pulled it up for us today.
I read it. I posted it a bunch of times.
Okay,
but it
so
was,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was destroying the stereotype of Black fathers, and they found out that they spent more time than a lot of other racist fathers. And that's what I saw. You gotta, when you look at stuff being told to you, statistics or whatever, I just use my brain. I look outside, all of the guys that I know with children who didn't have fathers or whatever, or they know that stipulation or that stigma that Black fathers aren't around. So they try to do extra. You see some people in the media or whatever, social media, whatever, and they got their kid in front of everybody saying, I'm a father and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, just to prove to everybody, when everybody else doesn't feel like they have to showcase that they're a father. This is normal. This is what it's supposed to be, right? I'm supposed to take care of my kids. Who doesn't, So when that came out, I was glad. I felt like we were being vindicated because the stereotype was really being perpetuated by our very own women, in a lot of cases. So not only do I have to fight the system and the racist system that tells me I'm not in my child's life, but my baby mother is saying that I'm a deadbeat and all of that. And white supremacists are like, see, I told you, their own women say that they don't take care of the children, So, and, going back to what you were saying about that rule, I noticed that every other culture takes care of their own people. When people talk about the discrepancies and racism with the police, if they pull over a car full of Black dudes, it's a different protocol than pulling over a car full of white dudes. Now, Black dudes, what we hear from them through media, like rap music or whatever, and how a lot of us have to put on this macho, almost violent persona to be accepted within our own culture, and that's how other people expect us to be. If we're not, then we're weird or something like that. So you have to step outside yourself and look at how they operate and what they look at things. They don't see a lot of positive Black media out. The Cosby Show, did they take it off yet? That was like a big source. Like, you never seen a show with a positive family like that before, for a lot of people to emulate. The Cosby Show changed my life. A Different World. I didn't care about college until I saw A Different World. I was like, wow, that looks fun. I can't wait to get to college now, So, and there's nothing like that. So they say, okay, yeah, they shoot, they kill each other. They're animals, blah, blah, blah. Car full of Black dudes. I'm scared already. As far as a car full of white dudes, what are you knuckleheads doing? I used to be a kid and I used to look just like this when I was younger. So I'm going to tell them, okay, you guys been drinking. I smell something. Go home now, or I'm going to bust you, is what the white kids will get. Black kids, they're going to have them all out on the curb. They're going through all this stuff and all of that because they're doing justice. These people are the ones self-proclaimed drug dealers, killers, all of this like that. And we're doing the system justice, not in any way, shape, or form justifying racism. I just understand, and that's what we try to get, an understanding of why these things. Don't just be dismissive, like he's white, he's probably racist, and that's it. How did he arrive at this racism? And I was just thinking on the way up here, how did he arrive at this point? It's like racism now, to me, in my own opinion, and this might not be right and you might disagree, is ad hoc in how it's facilitated now. Like back in the 50s and it was a system. Like, you can't drink out of this water fountain. It's the law. You can't get married or have relations with someone outside of your race. It's the law. And there's this court systems. Everybody's enforcing, which is clearly racism. Now, if you have somebody white working at any Acme company, he's in charge of HR, and he also is a part of the Klan, He's not hiring black people. Does that mean that the company is racist because they don't have any black workers? Or is it this one dude and this one dude over here and this one dude, and every time, because they're in positions of power, they enact their sickness, which is racism. Now it looks like the institution is racist.
Well, I think there's a lot of tools against us, and I think it's something that we cannot escape simply because of color. So, for instance, you could have a little teenage girl who only makes probably $3 an hour in some podunk town out, someplace way out south, maybe in the foothills of a mountain or something like that. And she didn't even take a bath that day and probably hadn't taken a bath in a few days or something like that. And most of the people in the town don't even really like her much, right? And she just so happens to be working at a grocery store. And then you could have a black woman, or maybe just say a black man, like maybe somebody, who's kind of, real clean cut, everything together. And then you step out of your Mercedes and you have all your money and you got wads and wads of money in your thing, but you decide to use your card instead. And then she simply says to you, "May I see some ID?" And everybody else, all of the strangers, people from other cities, people from other towns, all kinds of people coming through, because it just so happens to be a town that is like a tourist trap or something like that. And so there's a lot of people coming through this particular town, and every white person who comes through, she never asks to see ID, but you happen to come through with some color and she asks you to see ID. So racism can be as simple as that. But it can be, like you said, working at Acme and saying, "No, you can't work here because you're a person of color." But it also, the problem though, is it's a global system. It goes across the world.
Right. Yeah. I was just about to say that. Like
you can't. And the reason why I see it as the worst problem is because I can't wash it off.
Right.
You can't wash it off, and you can't say, Terrell, you can say it. But that's also, like, for instance, when you said, I'm going to go back to the statement that you said when you said you can't look at every white person and say, "Oh, he's racist" or "she's racist." That's actually part of the code, the anti-racist code written by Neely Fuller Jr., which I've based a huge part of my show off of. He suggests that we don't do that. He suggests that you might look, you're duty bound to suspect that they could be racist, but you're not supposed to just vagrantly, go around, "You race because you're white," because that could be the person that you need to help. The whole point is we're supposed to be better than them, not worse.
Right.
The other point is we're supposed to be looking to replace the system of racism with the system of justice. So in order to replace that system, then we have to respond to them in a just manner, even though they might be responding to us from a point of mistreating and dominating because you're a person of color.
Right. Yeah. And I was just about to say that, like, with me personally, I do not think that you can defeat racism, because I understand that since the beginning of time, no matter where, anywhere on this earth, humans are just inherently, and it's just human nature for humans to fear and not like stuff that they don't understand. Throughout the test of time, it doesn't matter if it's a group of white people, they hate each other because of something. If it's a group of Africans over here, the Hutus and the Tutsis going for war because of, if you look at in the Middle East, different religious factions, they're all Arab, but they're going at it because they look at religion in different ways. The Shiites and the Sunnis, so here, and a lot of people here think that racism was originated in America. It was not, so my thing is, like, you cannot defeat people not liking you. Somebody's always not going to like you for some reason. You light skin, I'm a man, I got curly hair and you don't, people are always going to find some reason not to like you and disenfranchise you some way, even your own people. So that's my point. You're not going to beat that. Okay, that's going to be here.
Okay.
What you can do is equip everyone to handle that. Okay, we shouldn't be asking these entities for mercy. We should have our own. Like, they have Jewish hospitals. Oh my God. Like, where's the black hospitals? We're depending on them to help us. And then when they don't, we get upset and we call it racism. No, we get our own doctors together, make our own black hospital that doesn't say this is a black hospital. This is a hospital where, we actually care about our people. That's what a Jewish hospital is for me. Um, and it's just like, people like, I go off of what Dr. Martin Luther King said. Treat people based off of the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Okay. This white guy over here, I don't know what he's until he transgresses against me. I give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. I don't care, unless he gets in my way or tries to stop me. I really don't care about him. I feel kind of offended when people who are militant or pro-black start talking about white people in general, because I do know a lot of white people who help black people. Like that meeting in the Chicago Jobs Council, I'll just throw it out there, that I was in. They tackle a lot of racist entities that's going on in the city of Chicago and have been victorious in a lot of projects that they brought on. Like they were charging an extra $5 to recharge the Venture card, the bus card. And what the Ivory Tower people were thinking was that, you know, students, people downtown, yuppies, they take public transportation. They recharge the car for $5. It's just $5. But they forgot about the whole South Side and the West Side, who predominantly African American communities use the bus. So demolish that $5 fee. That's one of the victories that they have. And like 90%, I'm not gonna say 90%. I would say a good majority of it is white people. So when Mr. Militant over here said, yeah, white people, blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, wow, they also do a lot, you know, and they have, if you look in any movement in history, it was pushed forward through a rainbow coalition, meaning of different races. Like in the civil rights movement, you saw white people up there in front. And they know a lot of white people are ashamed at racism, you know. And so, you know, one of the projects that CJC is doing right now is the parking ticket situation.
What's CJC?
Chicago Jobs Council. And right now they were talking about if you get a parking ticket, like we were talking about earlier, you can compound. Like if you don't pay it in so long, it goes up to 100, 200. Then they'll boot your car, and you know. And they did a study. Like I don't know too many statistical black companies that do stats. So they did, and they found that there's a lot of disproportionate traffic cameras in our area. You go to court in some areas and you see nothing but black folks. Impoverished black folks have to think about, do I eat or do I pay this ticket? I don't have a car. I can't get money to eat. Ticket is way out of my range now, you know? So it's little battles like this that I think that instead of you get more flies with honey than you do with other things, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, just basically painting everybody and saying that this is, I think the way to defeat it or handle it is to boost our people up. And that's just my or BMV's look at it. Like if we had better families, better people that can get into these institutions, get a gang of doctors to start up the black hospital, get a gang of police, black police, because we don't like the police, basically. You know, that's why nobody's going and drove to be a black cop, you know. But it will be really, really hard for a lot of these institutions to be races like that if there's a brother or a sister right there saying, no, you can't do that.
I think I need to step in here and say something about loyalty. I think part of our problem is we're loyal to the wrong thing. We need to be loyal to justice. And if we're loyal to justice and not loyal to loyalty for loyalty's sake. So we have black men becoming cops, but then they become loyal to the blue instead of loyal to the justice. We have black judges who become judges, but then they get loyal to that cloth or that person who put them there.
Right.
And I just wanted to make that point real quick. I think that we need to be loyal to justice. If you're loyal to justice, you could take somebody's money, you could take somebody's aid, you could take somebody's help, and you say, we're going to take this that you've given me, and I'm going to continue to fight for justice.
Yeah, I understand. It's hard, especially
but why is it hard? Like, for instance, I have so many white people that I'm friends with on Facebook, but I still get accused of like the little kill whitey. People call me that all the time because I am very, very pro-black. I'm very, very militant. But I've been saying to the white people that I'm friends with on Facebook, I've known them since I was a child growing up in South Dakota. And I say to them, I'm fighting for I'm trying to support my people. I'm fighting for my people. These bad things that are happening to black people, I don't like them. I'm black. And not, very, very rarely do they ever say to me,
It takes you have to understand, a lot of people don't have the strength and resilience and a lot of those situations, like, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago about how people are loyal, black people are loyal to another group that has accepted them, because people don't accept us on a whole. So it feels good to be with a group of people that really care for you. That's the reason why we still have gangs, because if you're not accepted by, if we don't even accept ourselves in a lot of situations. So, women can be women before they're blacks. Cops will be cops before they're blacks. Any position or whatever, people will hold loyalty to that group because our group is not very loyal to each other in a lot of aspects. That's just um a opinion of mine. I sit and I think about why these things are happening a lot, and it could be this, it could be that, it could be. But the thing is, you have to make a solid, like you and I may be like, if I was a cop, I'm gonna be out for justice until we get in that situation. We really can't. So I have to just speculate. I have to think about it, And what I see normally when you do see a black cop in the middle of some racist white cop thing going on, they're usually quiet. We don't know if he went back to the locker room and said, that wasn't right, man, and he got kicked off the force. The media never show us that. The media is always trying to show us something to get us hype about, to keep us tuned in, looking at their commercials, to keep us clicking on their stories.
To sensationalize the negativism.
That's what people want to see.
There's definitely for every negative example that you and I talk about, or anybody on earth talks about, there's definitely a positive example too.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't get clicks.
Right.
That doesn't get clicks. Like
because I've definitely run into my share of good black cops. Absolutely.
Yeah, and me as well. There's been a couple of white cops that let me slide. When I could not have been, like, if they like I got caught driving under the influence, but going to the store. We was at my house just drinking whatever. We went to the store and came right back. He could have gave me a DUI, white cop. Matter of fact, because the store was so close to my house, he could have really busted me. He got me dead to rights. I'm behind the wheel under the influence. Real wrong. Should have been, but he kind of he flipped it on me, because I was driving like this is way back in the day. I was driving a Diamante, a Mitsubishi Diamante. It was like fairly new or whatever. And I'm like, he's like, I pulled you over. I'm like, why you pull me? I'm not swerving or nothing. Like, I could drive these 2 blocks, I'm like, he something. And he was like, I had to pull you over for such and such. And I'm like, come on, man, ain't no criminal driving a car like this, And he was like, come on now, that's just racist, man. Like, the white cop told me I was being racist. You know what I'm saying? So, and then there's been times when a black cop could have gave me like, I remember I went jogging one time. It was like 90 degrees. I went jogging and I hopped in the Diamante, and I'm driving with no seatbelt on, but without no shirt either, straight thugging it. And black cop pulled me over and gave me a ticket for no seatbelt. I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that. Well, that's not a moving violation, or it wasn't at the time. Like, if they pulled you over for speeding and noticed you didn't have your seatbelt on, that's a seatbelt ticket too, as well. And I'm like, brother, man, why you messing with me? Like, and those are the situations where it's messy, the whole thing. Everything is not. We cannot afford to group everything under one umbrella and act on that. Each different situation is different and requires a different response, in my opinion.
Well, you've definitely given me some things to think about, and I think the listeners too as well. I don't think I'm going to completely 100% change my view on racism, but okay, yeah. I definitely am very glad that you came. Very glad you shared your perspectives with us and the family. And there's definitely some things to think about. And there's definitely some signs in here, or some things that you have said that maybe if we as a people are able to do, that we can be free. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we're going to go to our outro now because we are out of time.
Oh, man. They say time flies when you're having fun.
All right. Thanks a lot, Earl.
Thank you. One Drop Elopes on Intellectual Radio, hosted by my daughter, Benita Osset. Benita Osset is on Instagram, Morris, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Email your thoughts, questions, concerns, or opinions to benitaosset@gmail.com. Benita will be happy to respond. Join Benita every Sunday at 12 noon on IntellectualRadio.com.